Hey guys, welcome to the first lesson of science this week. We have two. This one should take you about an hour, maybe a little bit less. Please don't forget to turn these in at the end. Here is our do now. The title today is Food Webs. Please remember everything that we learned about food earlier this year. We learned that we get energy from our food. So, three questions. Where do lions get energy? Where do zebras get energy? Where does grass? It's a plant, it's alive. Where does it get its energy? Here's a little picture to help you think about this, a little African savanna picture. Um, Go ahead and pause and do that now, and we will keep going. Here's our agenda. I have a scientist of the day for you. We have a kind of a new unit we're starting. Our last unit for the whole school year. Oh my gosh, we're almost done. I want to introduce you to some vocabulary. We're going to do a lot of food web practice. A little X ticket at the end. Our scientist of the day is Dr. Ashish Jha. Please read more about him. You can Google him if you want to learn more. Our learning target. I will model how energy enters an ecosystem, flows through it, and when and how it leaves. So this is kind of a big thing. We're looking at energy in ecosystems today. So to meet today's target, I want you to be able to draw arrows to describe how energy flows into and through an ecosystem, and describe why not all energy from the sun ends up in the organisms at the top of the food chain. Okay, so there's two parts to it. The big kind of vocab for the day, ecosystem. You've heard this word. What does it mean? It's a system, which means it has like boundaries. Things come in, things go out. An ecosystem is a community of interacting living things and their physical environment. So it's the living things and the non-living things together. So in this picture, you have animals, you have plants, you have bacteria, but also you have water, you have air, soil, sunlight, rocks. All of these are the ecosystem. And we're talking about that today. So you probably have hoping you've heard of a food chain before. I hope that you did this in elementary school. A food chain shows energy. I don't know, maybe if you talk about food chains before, you talk about like, oh, this thing eats that. But what we're actually using it for scientifically is to show, to model how energy moves through an ecosystem. So right here, I hope you got this from the do now. Energy from the grass goes into the zebra when the zebra eats it. Energy from the zebra goes into the lion when the lion eats the zebra. Looking down at the bottom, I want you to pause this video. I want you to tell me what is missing. Where does the grass get its energy? What's missing from this simple chain? It's too easy. Pause it, answer those two questions, and we'll keep going. I'm hoping you've done that, and I hope that you kind of realize, well, the grass is a plant. It gets its energy from the sun. It has chloroplasts. It does photosynthesis. It takes energy from the sunlight, and it makes its own food. So the energy that I get from my food originally came from the blank. I want you to fill that in because you know what it is. Because even if you don't eat zebras or grass, you eat corn. Maybe you eat meat, maybe you don't. But if you ate meat, that animal ate plants. And if you also eat plants, we all eat plants, those plants got their energy from the sun. All of the energy in your body originated in the sun. Think about that. That hurts my brain a little bit. The sun gives you personally energy. When I'm walking around looking like a weirdo, all the energy I'm using came from the sun. Okay, so food webs, a food web is a little bit different from a food chain. It's just bigger. Think about one chain, another, but then these chains kind of cross over, and pretty soon you have this whole web like you see in the picture down there. They're models for showing the complicated methods that energy flows through an ecosystem. They can help us understand how things interact with each other, how organisms interact. We can predict, as scientists, we might want to say like, well, I want to go in there and take wood out of that forest because I want to build a house. Well, how would that affect ecosystems? A food web is one tool we could use to understand that. Okay, so for this unit, we're looking at three types of organisms. We can organize all these living things into kind of three groups. We call those groups producers, consumers, and decomposers. Just real quick, pause me and finish this question at the bottom. Predict. What are you? Are you a producer, a consumer, or a decomposer? And why? Pause me. Predict. It helps you kind of learn these words by thinking it through beforehand and then learning later. Pause. Predict. Go. Okay, a producer is an organism that produces, that makes its own food, usually using energy from the sun. So think about that. It's not like Mr. Murphy likes to cook, he produces his own food. No, no, no. I mean, I have to eat my food. So I am not a producer. Producers are like plants. Plants are super obvious ones. There's also like little tiny bacteria and little tiny things that aren't bacteria, but they're tiny and they're like microscopic and they take in energy from the sun. Algae, zooplankton, not zooplankton, green plankton, green algae, something like that. They also photosynthesize. They make energy. Sorry, they make their own food to get their energy. So they produce their own food. Okay, so that's a little bit different. Here's some examples: trees, plants. These are those microscopic things I'm talking about. Look at the sun. Look at the energy arrows going from the sun to the plants. The energy is moving from the sun to the plants. Okay. Next one is consumer. A consumer is an organism that gets its food by eating other organisms. Does that sound like anybody you know? This guy. I like to eat. So plants are producers, and then things that eat, like things that eat the plants, or even things that eat the plants, like in this picture, are consumers. So the snail is a consumer because it eats plants. The frog eats the snail. It's also a consumer. It's actually we call a secondary because it's the next level because it ate a thing that ate plants. And then the fox might eat the frog. It is a tertiary. That means like the third level because it eats the thing that eats the thing that eats the plants. Whoa. Okay. So notice, and this little blue box appears in a bunch of places because this is like the main modeling thing to remember is where to point the arrows. We often want to point like Mr. Murphy to pizza because he wants to eat the pizza, but that's not the way the energy flows. I don't put my energy into the pizza energy goes into me. So the arrow is showing energy from the plants going into the snail, from the snail into the frog, from the frog going into the fox. Keep that in mind. The last one here, the last category of organism is a decomposer. It is an organism that gets its energy, its nutrients. I'm going to actually add that. Its nutrients and energy by breaking down dead organisms. So you're mostly looking at like fungi, mushrooms, things like that, and bacteria. So when an animal dies, it doesn't stay there forever. The energy in it, in the molecules of the dead animal, get decomposed, or the dead plant. They actually get broken down by bacteria and fungus, molds, things like that. That's actually what's happening to all that moldy food in the back of your refrigerator. It is being broken down by decomposers, which are probably fungi. If you see the little blue dots of on your bread, fungus. Yeah, molds. Okay, so here's the picture. We have at the bottom there, it says producers, and I'm pointing to the plants. Like, okay, those are the producers. Then there's primary consumers. They eat producers. That's like elephants and zebras and stuff. And then there are secondary, tertiary consumers. They eat other consumers. You might think of them as carnivores. They eat other animals. You have herbivores, which are the primary consumers. They eat the plants, the producers. And you have the producers, the plants. Again, notice the arrows are all going up. The arrows are going from the producers, the plants, up into the things that eat them. The arrows are not going from the lion down. The lion doesn't tend to give its energy to other living things because things don't really eat lions. But look at this box. What is missing? Pause and answer what's missing. There's two things missing. There's the sun. The sun gives the energy to the producers. Oh, I wonder if I do one of these, will it help? Yes, if I extend it, I hope you can see that. So the sun gives its energy to the producers. Yeah. And then also everything when they die give energy to the decomposers. So the lion, the zebra, the plants, when all those things die, worms, bacteria, fungus, break them down, get the energy that way. Look at this little picture at the bottom right. Don't skip that. Again, I'm trying to help you remember the energy, the arrow. Its energy goes from the fish to the crocodile. The energy is pointing to the mouth. Think about it's like cheeseburger to Mr. Murphy's mouth. The fish goes into the mouth of the crocodile. Okay, let's keep going. So, real quick, pause this now. These are 5 games. Miss Murphy's giving you games to play. Choose at least 2. Open them, play with them. This one is a little bit easier. This one helps you practice producer, consumer, decomposer. This one's just words. It's a bunch of like vocab. If you're like you want to practice the words, that's cool. These 2 are like drag. This one's kind of cool graphics, and you get to practice a little bit. This one is a little bit more complicated. Food webs. Pick a couple, practice them. Then, when you come down here, I want you to actually draw in arrows. You're going to use this tool. You're going to find this tool right here. I hope you can see my mouse. You're going to click this because you don't want to select a line because lines don't show energy flow. I need a direction. Directions are important. So you're going to come down here to click arrow. And now you can draw lines. You can draw lines however you want. You can make the line thicker. You can make them pink if you like pink lines. And you can draw them around. And you can always Control C, copy, Control V, paste, and you can draw more. I'm not giving these away, so I'm not telling you what order they're going to go in. And actually, I'll just leave these up here for you guys. You can copy and paste these if you like. Okay, I'll just leave one. If you want, copy and paste this arrow to show the energy flow. Okay, kind of the last thing here. Where does energy go after the line? Where does the energy go? You know what? I'm going to split this off. I'm going to make a second video, and I'm going to post it just before this slide because I am running out of time on the video I'm allowed. So go back and do slides 1 through 20 because after slide 20 we were doing the same thing, but I'm kind of teaching you a different thing. Slide 1 through 20 is practicing the vocab, practicing drawing arrows in the right directions. After that, we start thinking about what happens to energy when it leaves the ecosystem. Okay, I'll see you guys when you watch the next video. Bye.